up so that they can be attacked and insulted by other people. Is that debate? I guess. Is it a good thing? That is very much up for, ironically, debate. Anyway, there was a debate and a lot of people showed up and they weren't happy about this highway being named after a person that had basically nothing to do with the area. Local residents brought signs that simply said no in capital letters, which is vague. I'm not sure what they meant by that. Anyway, one, Sumai Lukumbe, who spoke against the resolution, said comparing Martin Luther King Jr., which they frequently do, and the work he did for civil rights to Kirk was a disgrace, saying, quote, "We need to start promoting equality. We need to start loving each other. If FM 969 needs to be renamed, it should be named after someone who did something for the actual community there," which is a crazy, wild idea, and I don't know why you'd say it. Anyway, Ruth Todd said Charlie Kirk was one of the most polarizing figures in politics. Naming a road in his honor does not unite the community. It sends a message to a significant portion of our community that their comfort in their home county does not matter. And look, obviously we could go into like the fact that they compare him to King when he literally, a year or two before he died, launched a war to try to destroy the reputation of Martin Luther King Jr. is a strange comparison to make. We could go into the racist comments that he's made and all of that stuff. You already, I'm sure, are familiar with it or whatever. But again, that is part of his legacy. Now, there are positive things. He has gotten a lot of conservatives, young conservatives interested in politics. That from their perspective is a positive thing. We can acknowledge that. But we're under no obligation to pretend that the negative or dark parts don't exist. And we're under no obligation to just stand by as everything is named after a person under sort of the umbrella of pretending that they were a more positive or unifying figure than they actually were. And regardless of what I, as a person who no longer even lives in Texas, thinks, those residents had a problem with it. That is the local civic activism that supposedly Charlie Kirk was a big fan of. So any conservatives who have a problem with this should think about that. Maybe this is them actually living up the legacy left behind by Charlie Kirk more than the people trying to cash in on his name to, I don't know, get Donald Trump to like them or whatever. Anyway, just something to think about, but that is gonna have to be it for our show. I wanna thank all of you for being here for this John Solo show. Tomorrow is gonna be Sharon, she's gonna be here. We got Big News Wednesday, we got a lot of news to talk about, and we'll of course be talking about some of the fallout from the State of the Union, which will be happening later today. I'm gonna be doing live coverage of it in studio and reaction to what's said. So if you're gonna watch the State of the Union, that's the way I think you should do it. So join me for that. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.
everyone, and welcome to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Doc is taking some time off. He's earned it. Never fear. One of your favorites is here. I know you say, oh, you said that about everybody, but this one is a fan favorite. Jackson White is here with us as our special guest co-host today. Jackson, where are you?
Today, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, my hometown, having a
Okay.
good time.
Yeah.
As you can see, well, you might have to zoom out a little. I got my Harry Potter graphics in the background. I solemnly swear I'm up to no good. The Reefer Madness, the Batman behind me. I'm doing good, though. It's good to be here with you.
Well, the pleasure's ours. Say hi to my neighbors. I used to have a place in Compton Heights, beautiful section of the city. I loved it.
I'm
So
gonna run through
say
there and
hi.
be like, Sharon said, what's up? That's what I'm
They'll
gonna
probably
do.
remember me. My dogs were constantly barking, okay, and
Okay,
digging up under my next door neighbor's fence and even escaping into his yard. That wasn't cool, but we remain friends to this day. This is seemingly an unfriendly, hostile act at an award show. Is this what we're doing? Yeah, apparently. So here we go. N-word blurted at Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo during BAFTAs, British award show. So what's going on behind the scenes here and why? Well, I'll tell you. While presenting at Sunday night's BAFTA Awards, Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were interrupted when a man from the audience yelled the N-word. Jordan clenched his jaw, froze for just a beat. Lindo paused too, briefly swiping his tongue to the side of his mouth, which means they were contemplating, do I address it or do we just keep going? Lindo flashed his eyes in the direction of the outburst before reading from the teleprompter. The actors kept their composure, as you might expect someone on the A-list to do. They finished presenting the award. But then we got to have a postmortem here, right? I'm coming to present an award over here across the pond, and what are you doing? Well, John Davidson, the real life inspiration for the celebrated British film I Swear, shouted the N word at Jordan and Lindo and has Tourette syndrome. He was involuntarily ticking. In an interview months before the award show, he admitted that the N word is one of the words he will involuntarily blurt out during his tics. I'm sorry. I'm looking for the punchline. But yeah, it's yeah, it's okay, Jackson. It was off-putting, and we all have different reactions to something like this. Can you imagine if you were on stage? You are a professional actor, and someone blurts this out. They kept going. But he says, look, that's just one of my tics. Warner Brothers executives reportedly asked for the BAFTAs broadcast to cut out the moment Davidson shouted the N word. You decide, is that appropriate or not? The man has a verifiable um, illness. That is what Tourette syndrome is. At the Warner Brothers after party following the ceremony, Lindo told Vanity Fair that he and Jordan did what we had to do, is the quote, while presenting. That he also wished someone from BAFTA spoke to us afterward. Though the BAFTAs aired on a tape delay, the slur nevertheless was included in the broadcast, though the BBC did not air outstanding British debut winner Akinola Davies Jr. saying free Palestine at the end of his speech, according to Deadline. They cut that on out. So they made a decision as this aired, the delay. You know how these things work. You've seen plenty of behind the scenes things. The Oscars here in the United States or BAFTAs over there, where they have a team of directors and TDs, a whole technical team with a finger on a button and they can get it out of there. Okay. Well, they got to be ready. And apparently they were ready for the omission of free Palestine, but not the N word. Outbursts followed an opening monologue from host Alan Cumming, during which Davidson, who has Tourette syndrome, was involuntary ticking. The audience had been informed of Davidson's condition before the show began, but it was only after he said the racial slur that Cumming openly addressed the issue. You may have noticed some strong language in the background. This can be part of how Tourette syndrome shows up for some people as the film explores that experience. Cumming explained from the stage, "Thanks for your understanding and for helping create a respectful space for everyone." After the incident, Davidson appeared to remove himself from the theater, according to Vanity Fair. So there's that. So what happens next? Well, Sinner's production designer, Hannah Beechler, has said that Alan Cummings' throwaway apology over the N word being shouted during the BAFTA Film Awards made the situation, quote, worse. "I keep trying to write about what happened at the BAFTAs and I can't find the words," Beechler, who was nominated for an award, posted on X after the ceremony. "The situation is almost impossible, but it happened 3 times that night, and one of the 3 times was directed at myself on the way to dinner after the show." She continued, "And a third time at a Black woman. I understand and deeply know why this is an impossible situation. I know we must handle this with grace, continue to push through. But what made the situation worse was the throwaway apology of, 'if you were offended,' at the end of the show. Of course, we were offended, but our frequency, our spiritual vibration is tuned to a higher level than what happened. I am not steel. This did not bounce off of me. I exist above it. I can't take away from who I am as an artist." Now, more on the apology by Davidson. "I wanted to thank BAFTA and everyone involved in the awards last night for their support and understanding and inviting me to attend the broadcast. I appreciated the announcement to the auditorium in advance of the recording, warning everyone that my tics are involuntary, not a reflection of my personal beliefs," Davidson said in his statement. In addition to the announcement by Alan Cumming, the BBC, and BAFTA, I can only add that I am and always have been deeply mortified if anyone considers my involuntary tics to be intentional or to carry any meaning. Award-winning journalist Dr. Stacey Patton, well, she weighed in too. "Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the room isn't the racial slur. It's the audacity to tell Black folks we didn't hear what we heard and to demand that we understand it before we're allowed to feel it." Across the mainstream entertainment coverage, very specific rhetorical choreography kicked in almost immediately. The incident was treated less like a racial harm event that happened to 2 Black men and more like a disruption that happened to the show. Entertainment Weekly and Variety didn't deny what happened, they diluted it. The coverage described what viewers heard as strong language and folded the racial slur into a broader category of curses and slurs, emphasizing that the outbursts were involuntary and part of how Tourette's manifest. That framing subtly trains readers to think general profanity, so the racial slur becomes one item in a chaotic mix instead of the reason Black viewers were jarred in the first place. Then comes the tone management pivot. Multiple outlets foregrounded Alan Cummings' call for understanding and language about creating a respectful space for everyone, so compassion becomes the headline. The host's reassurance becomes the narrative anchor, and the N-word itself recedes into the background. There's also what you might call the disability as closure arc. Diagnosis is offered not just as explanation, but as resolution. Tourette's is a disability. The tics are involuntary. He has no control. Apologies are extended if you are offended. Some outlets name the racial specificity more directly, but even there, the emotional center often rests on the apology and the explanation, not on the impact on Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo. The slur is treated as an incident during the show and as another beat in the recap cycle rather than as a rupture. That's the through line, folks. The coverage doesn't erase the slur. It domesticates it, renames it as, quote, strong language, absorbs it into general outbursts, and elevates compassion as the takeaway. Now, if you are irritated, you're not crazy, you're not being hypersensitive. If you are not required to override your nervous system in the name of someone else's diagnosis, what happened on that award stage was not just bad language, it was a racial slur with a documented history of violence shouted precisely at the moment 2 Black men walked onto the stage. He did not direct slurs at white presenters earlier in the night. He did not reach for anti-white epithets. The word surfaced at the sight of Black men And that timing is exactly why Black viewers are not confused about what we saw. The racial outburst only occurred to Black people. So we're absolutely right to question whether Davidson's behavior was purely neurological or whether social association is what shaped the tick's content. Tourette's tics can be stimulus sensitive. They can be triggered by environmental cues. That doesn't erase the social meaning of the trigger. When people rush to explain that moment away through neuroscience alone, many Black viewers experience the familiar suggestion that our discomfort is irrational. It isn't. So let's be precise and grown at the same time. Yes, Tourette syndrome is real. Yes, coprolalia, which is the involuntary utterance of taboo and racist language, is a documented symptom in a minority of severe cases. Yes, the brain can misfire and release words without conscious intent. The neuroscience behind that is not controversial because neurology explains the release of the N word, but it does not explain its acquisition. Boy, this is spot on. Coprolalia can produce involuntary utterances. It does not choose words from outside a person's linguistic world. It may be triggered by an environmental stimulus. But the stimulus in this case was Black presence. That's what people saw. You can explain basal ganglia circuitry. You can explain corticostriatal loops. You can explain how taboo language becomes neurologically sticky due to its emotional charge within a culture. You can do all of that, and still the timing and context matter. Problem is not that Black folks are incapable of understanding neuroscience. The problem is the expectation that understanding must equal emotional compliance. Because that's where this starts to feel like gaslighting. No one blurts out the Pythagorean theorem as a tick because it's not emotionally encoded in the brain as forbidden, charged, or explosive language. Ticks draw from what the brain is tagged as high voltage, and high voltage language is socially learned. Brains are not born with slurs pre-installed. A brain cannot involuntarily blurt out a word that was never encoded and stored there. That slur exists somewhere in that person's cognitive inventory. Again, this is Dr. Stacy Patton, News One, with the reporting. So the question isn't how did the tick fire? The question is, how did that word get stored in Davidson's head in the first place? How did the N word become neurologically available? Who taught him the N word? Where did he hear it? How often was it circulating in his world? How often does it still circulate in his world? In what tone? In what context? These are legit sociological questions. Even with this disability, Davidson is still a white man who knows that word. Tourette's may explain the release, but it does not explain the racial architecture that made the word available to him. Disability does not override the social world in which someone was raised, does not place anyone outside the history of race. And while the utterance may have been involuntary, the impact was not, and it does not erase responsibility for the harm that lands. Wow. Dr. Stacy Patton said a lot. And I learned some things, and it's left me still with more questions I need answers to. We could all learn more about this disability. It's debilitating for some, embarrassing, as he said. I think he used the word mortified at the utterance that he's dealt with before. That's over here, and it's a big thing to put over here. But I guess for me, Jackson, what resonates is it's always us, right? We always have to be the ones that turn the other cheek. We always have to be the ones where, well, you're strong. Come on. In this case, you're Black men, you're Hollywood A-listers. You faced crowds before, you faced uncertainty before, yada, yada, yada. It's just not something that we should even acknowledge your role in this as victims of this slur. Let's just focus on this individual and his plight and not you at all. That they cut out free Palestine, but not this Tourette's enabled slur, that lands for me. The fact that it is so many non-people of color who appear to be making the decisions about what airs and what doesn't resonates with me too. We're kind of used to that. Your thoughts here?
It was like a straight South Park episode to me. They came up on stage and his brain was like, "Oh boy, now's my chance." It looked like they handled it well. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, I mean, whatever. I think in terms of the network, they could have bleeped it out or edited it out, and then this wouldn't even be a conversation. I don't know the man personally, and I'm not a doctor, so I can't really sit up here and speak too much about that at all. But in terms of any fault and blame, he was invited there. He warned people ahead of time that it's one of his ticks. I can't lie. When I saw it, I laughed uh, because it was like, what? Like, did I just see that for real? But the network could have edited it out. And I think at the end of the day, we're dealing with much bigger problems. And it's unfortunate too. I think that, this guy's wrapped up in this situation. The network also, I think, can take blame for that too. Like, y'all invited him to this event and now he's all up in the mix of this controversy when you could have just edited it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that this is like a field day Cartman, Eric Cartman thing going on. But for me, I don't really care that much, honestly.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that this is has so wounded these two
Yeah,
A-list
yeah,
stars that they can't go on.
yeah,
What I agree with is that I'm gonna probably sit this one with the network and a lack of sensitivity.
yeah,
You see, it's not as if this is somebody who is in a wheelchair. They pan the crowd and then they don't want to show someone in a wheelchair. That's a person who is living fully, right? This man has said, "I'm mortified that I do this. I don't like." He removed himself from the theater, which that breaks my heart too. After he did it,
yeah. It
why
was
not cut it
just
out and help him too? I
yeah,
don't understand that, or checking on the two presenters. You and I know they can take it because we have a similar hue. But that doesn't mean that you don't check on them, because we've been so desensitized to that word and the constant barrage, the PTSD trauma, that the assault that is every day living while Black, that there's not even now an apology to the Black men who, as
yeah,
Dr. Patton said, walked out on stage. And that's what triggered it. Nobody said, "Hey, sorry, guys." It was, if anyone's offended, let me tell you what's going on here. What? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I think it's just an embarrassing situation for the network more than anything else. It's almost like they set the situation up just so that everybody could talk about it, because of course people are going to talk about it. I mean, it was pretty surprising. That doesn't happen often, and the two gentlemen were up on stage and they were like, "Huh? Like, who really expects that?" But if I was the man in question, I might sue the network. Like, man, why did you do this to me? But I think that, we've suffered much worse, but this is definitely corporate negligence at the end of the day.
I like that. That's a good way to button it. Corporate negligence.
Yeah.
You know better.
Yeah.
Do better. To see their faces after it was uttered was, well, it was problematic. They handled it. All right, let's move on to this one. Give you an update now. Lewd text from Representative Tony Gonzales exposed. And when we say expose, understatement. There's some other words that probably should be used here. I don't know what you're smiling about. I don't know what. There's nothing to smile about after looking into this one. Last week, we covered Representative Tony Gonzalez' affair with an aide who committed suicide by self immolation. Resurfaced texts show how far Gonzalez pushed her. I mean, this is some sick stuff, folks. Her husband released the text between Gonzales and aide Regina Santos Avalos. And you're looking at him right now. There it is. You're going to deny that, Congressman? And the rest of the messages. Well, let me just go through some of them. Okay, I'll read some of it. Because this is a representative of the truth. Send me a sexy pic. I swear my life has been a telenovela for the past 7 days. You don't really want a hot picture of me. Yes, I do. Hurry. Is this a test? No, I just don't like taking pictures of myself. I'm just a visual person. Then, whoever authored this is a pig, so forgive me. The pig goes on to say, favorite position? Now look, if you're consenting adults and one is not a power over another, like in the workplace, do what you want to do, whatever floats your boat, whatever turns you on. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about vile harassment in the workplace. Nothing to smile about. On top, pinning your legs. This is going too far, boss. So how long have you thought I was this hot since you worked at the chamber? I mean, it goes on and on and on. I was shared with the Express News 34 text sent between 12:15 a.m. and 1:09 a.m. on May 9, 2024. He said he had withheld other texts because they were even more graphic and he did not want his son to see them. Barrera described the unreleased texts as sexually grotesque. Gonzales calls these politically charged attacks in the midst of a heated Texas primary. During my 6 years in Congress, not a single formal complaint has been levied against my office. What does that prove, homie? Nowadays, away from an election, coordinated political attacks reign in. It won't work. Halfway through early voting, and the intensity resides with TG voters. I'd rather be us than them. But the husband's not having it. And here's his reply. Ready? Adrian Avalos here again. I don't think anyone rather be you. You're a home-wrecking, perverted, sick man, Tony. Zero remorse, zero accountability, just denial, deflection, lies, playing the victim. This isn't coordinated political attacks. This is exposing the real Tony Gonzales. This is tragedy you helped create, and you refuse to own it. I'm sure others stayed silent in fear of your power, but I fear no man but God. My 8-year-old son will grow up knowing what a real man of honor looks like. I'm exposing your disgust as my duty to him and in memory of Regina, who deserves better than your abuse of power. You don't deserve the responsibility of being a congressman or a leader. Texans deserve a leader with integrity, not a coward. Donald Trump, pull your endorsement from this home-wrecking coward. We should tell you multiple sources have also claimed there was a toxic work environment within the Gonzales office. 24 Site News spoke with 2 former female staffers who said they received text messages from Gonzales that, while not overtly sexual, made them uncomfortable during the course of their employment. What about the GOP? Can you believe it? There are calls for his resignation. Let's see how far they go and who's calling for it. Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado became the first Republican lawmaker to call for Gonzales' resignation, followed by Representatives Anna Paulina Luna of Florida, Nancy Mace of South Carolina, who were both prompted to speak out by the release of new alleged text messages between the lawmaker and his subordinate. Politico with some of the details here. I'm joining Nancy Mace, Lauren Boebert, and Anna Paulina Luna in calling for Representative Tony Gonzales to resign immediately. Where are the other men in the GOP? Representative Thomas Massey's asking. Trump is infamous for making terrible endorsements. This is one, and it should be revoked. Of course, Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House, so I'm sure he's going to weigh in, right? He's going to say, that's it. I mean, Mike Johnson talks about the Bible all the time. He goes to church every Sunday. Not that that means he's better than the next guy, but I mean, he has a spiritual guidance here. So I just know that he's going to do and say the right things. Oh, but this says Mike Johnson is protecting Gonzales. So Republicans don't have an even further narrow majority since Thomas Massey usually votes against the GOP. Watch this.
Mr. Speaker, why should Tony Gonzales resign given these very serious accusations?
There are serious accusations, and it must be taken seriously. And I've told him he's got to address that with his constituents, and he's in the process of doing that. Is my understanding. There's an investigation in the state of Texas on these matters, and has been going for some time. And the Office of Congressional Conduct has also, it's been reported. They've been looking at it. All of that was news to me, but I think, as in every case like this, you have to allow the investigations to play out and all the facts to come out. I've been intellectually consistent about this. Whether you're talking about Republicans or Democrats, you have to let the system play out.
No, we don't. That's a lie. Every day, as human beings with the power to reason, we make judgments, and we don't have to let all of the evidence come out. We can look at some and say, well, this right here is too much for me. As Lindsey Graham would say, you can count me out. Only he didn't mean it, did he? The only mistake that perhaps the husband, I don't want to criticize him a bit, that's a real man for you. Standing up for his wife's memory, too. Not focusing on a workplace harassment that resulted in, I don't call it a relationship when one person has power over the other. I don't even know if liaison is the right word, but I think you get where I'm going. But Mike Johnson believes that, okay, these are leaders elected to public office. They're supposed to be a cut above. We're supposed to hold them to a higher standard. But in Mike Johnson's view, Jackson, he shouldn't resign unless he's convicted. That's the low bar, okay? And when I say I was thinking about criticizing the husband, the only thing I think he got, unless he was tongue in cheek here, asking Donald Trump to pull the endorsement, this is exactly who Donald Trump should endorse, because birds of a feather, brother. What say you?
Well, too often men not only find themselves in this position, but put other people in this position. And it's so avoidable. All you have to do, among other things, is not sleep with your subordinates and not sleep with your colleagues. There's literally billions of people in the world, and just go outside a little bit. There's all types of apps that you can use. There's so many different options that you can take to not, put others in an unethical situation. And I mean, when it comes to like infidelity, I mean, people cheat all the times, and people have all types of reasons for it. Human beings aren't particularly good at monogamy. So that's really besides the point. At the end of the day, this was unprofessional. And clearly, he was dealing with somebody who wasn't emotionally stable. And you can see that and you can tell that. And as a man, especially as an adult, you need to be able to gauge these types of things. I mean, he drove this woman to the point of suicide. It's not as if that just happened all of a sudden. I mean, how intimate were they really? How much were they talking for her to become that attached to him to lead to this? So this is 100% Tony Gonzalez's fault. Absolutely, he should resign. There's no question about that. You're right about birds of a feather flocking together, but at the end of the day, this situation was totally avoidable. If this was someone that wasn't involved in his office, then we probably wouldn't even be talking about this. It wouldn't be as crushing and as big of a deal. But men do this often, having sex with people that they simply should not be sleeping with. And it's obviously goes into power plays, different types of dynamics that are just completely inappropriate. So this really is a tragic situation, and Tony Gonzalez is 100% to blame for it. And it could have been avoided if he just thought with his big head instead of his little one.
Yeah, he's gross.
Yeah.
More grotesque than these text messages that the husband rightly released. Looking at him makes me break out into hives. I feel itchy. And I'm going to tell you why. Jackson's exactly right. Out of, I don't know, billions of people that he could have had an affair with. Again, I'm not going to call it an affair. This liaison with. His ego, his narcissism, lay diagnosis. I'm not a doctor. Had him say, I'm going to hire her and I'm going to do what I want to do with her. He couldn't even help himself. And now, what makes him particularly ugly and unfit for any of us to be around or see, let alone have as a leader in Congress, is the fact that she walked outside of her home. Inside, perhaps, was that 8-year-old child she loved and a husband. She poured gasoline on herself and lit herself on fire.
I mean,
That's what she did. And
that
have I
is
heard anything? An apology? Oh my God. That would make me resign even if I didn't do these things to her. Because something's not right in this office if it's attached to the congressman. But he says, no, these are my political opponents. No, brother, it's you. And you are sick. And you are representative of sickness. And we don't have to wait, Mike Johnson. You should go too, if you believe we do, given what we already have confirmed. Jackson.
Yeah, and again, the way that she she committed suicide was just, I mean, how hurt and distressed do you have to do it like that? You know, so again, he was clearly enjoying the power trips and the ego boost that he was getting from it. And then after that, you say, "Oh no, this really whatever, so what?" He's a completely despicable human being
Mhm.
and honestly a representation of what the culture of the Republican Party has become underneath Donald Trump.
Everything's excusable. The worst is excusable. Only it's not. And we can definitely do something about this one and that one. We'll keep following the story. People have to work, people need their money. But I wish every staffer would walk the hell out of his office and say, I can't be associated with trash. And it's trash behavior. So you decide if that defines the individual doing it as trash. I know what I think. All right, one of the worst things you can say to some people, I guess, is still not everybody, not in this day and age, but some people is to call them a racist. Yeah, I guess you better have your facts straight before you label someone as a racist. If not, you'll have to pay. That's what America's teaching wild people. If you don't have absolute 100% proof of why I did what I did, you might have to pay me. Even in a case like this, Black man murdered by his white supremacist cellmate, 21-year-old incarcerated in a Georgia prison was murdered by his white supremacist cellmate and was discovered 2 days later. There he is. The details for you. 21-year-old Je'vion Benham was in custody of the Georgia Department of Corrections at Valdosta State Prison when he was found dead in what attorneys described as a solitary confinement cell, Christmas Eve 2025. According to Benjamin Crump, the esteemed civil rights attorney, Benham had been dead for 2 days before his body was discovered. Yeah, we got to know more about that too. The civil rights attorney Crump decided the Lowndes County coroner's findings, stating decomposition had progressed so severely that Benham's face was unrecognizable. How is it that you're in the care and custody of the state of Georgia and you cannot keep a proper count to discover that a young man is dead for over 2 days? Crump asked. CBS News, some of the reporting here. According to attorney Liza Park, Benham had requested solitary confinement out of safety concerns. Instead, she says, he was placed in a cell with another inmate who had been incarcerated since the 90s and was allegedly affiliated with the Ghostface Gang, which she described as a white supremacist prison gang founded in good old state of Georgia. Park said the two inmates were assigned to different tiers, classifications designed to separate individuals based on behavior and security risks. Epic fail. And should never have been housed together. That alone was a huge mistake, Park said, adding that combining a young Black inmate with a known white supremacist gang member created a, quote, foreseeable risk. Coroner determined that Benham was strangled to death. Attorneys confirmed Benham's death has been ruled a homicide, though his cellmate has not yet been charged. I guess they're taking their time to gather all of the evidence here. They must need to make sure they dot every I and cross every T here. No charges, not yet. Let's tell you where things stand. Je'vion's mother, Robin Benham, traveled from Iowa to Georgia after receiving word Christmas Eve that her son had died. My son should have been coming home, she said through tears. She told reporters the last time she spoke to her son was December 21st. He sounded worried, but she told her he was okay. You can imagine a son locked up, telling his mother, reassuring her, not wanting her to worry. That's how I envision it. Christmas Eve, she received a message that her son was gone. Hours later, officials confirmed he had been involved in an altercation and succumbed to his injuries. When she arrived in Georgia, she said she learned the extent of the decomposition. I had to see that my son didn't have a face, she said. We didn't even get a choice. I got ashes. My kids got ashes. Robin Benham said her son had been looking forward to his release. He wanted to be an inspirational speaker to youth. He wanted kids to not do the same things he did, she said. My son should have been coming home. Yeah. Crump and Park said they plan to file notices of claim against the state of Georgia for constitutional and state violations tied to Benham's death. They are awaiting documents through open records requests and say additional facts could shape potential legal claim. What about Valdosta State Prison? Well, here's what we can tell you. It's been known for years for its human rights violation. According to reports, inmates at Valdosta are routinely forced to live in cages. These prisoners have no access to toilets, instead are compelled to urinate into bottles, defecate into plastic bags provided to them in crates. Prisoners also report widespread gang control of food distribution, gangs monopolizing essential food items such as fruit, selling them at exorbitant prices to inmates who have no other means to obtain these basic necessities. Don't talk to me about a third world country. And don't preach to anybody outside of these United States of America. This is what you're doing in our name, we the people. Jackson, there's so many layers to this. I don't even know where to begin. Okay. This guy, gone. Okay. And there's people who want to start with, well, he was in prison. Duh. That's not where I'm going to start, though. I'm going to start at the part where he should be alive and he was in the care and control of the state of Georgia. And there was an obligation there, a human rights obligation there. And they failed to protect his life. In fact, I'm not even going to say based on the circumstances here, maybe you will disagree, that this wasn't done deliberately. I don't think you can rule anything out. And I look forward to the open records request that Crump and the team have pending. What say you?
Well, at the end of the day, the attitude of so what, he was in prison is one of the biggest issues with our punitive prison system, because the overwhelming majority of people who are locked up are certainly not beyond repair and not beyond reprisal. And one of the saddest parts of this story is that this young man seemed to be aware of the mistakes that he made and wanted to go forward and help the youth to not repeat what he had done. You see this all the time. People get out of prison all the time and make something out of themselves and are sorry for what they've done and realize that they can be better and that they're worth more than whatever, actions and behaviors that they were demonstrating prior to that. And also keep in mind the overwhelming majority of people in our prison system are there for low-level drug offenses. most people aren't there because they're just mass murderers and absolutely beyond any type of redemption. And I think it's perfectly fair to say that this was done on purpose because they know who they're, the prison system, the wardens, they know who's in cells with who. They're aware of this. So if they really care about the lives of the inmates, then they're going to pay more attention to who they're bunking with. So at the end of the day, we have to change our attitudes about people in the prison system. I personally know people who have come out and have become very successful and are very remorseful for whatever it is that they've done. And a lot of the times people do these types of things when they're young, when their brains aren't finished developing, when they're still in the midst of figuring out who they are and dealing with things that they don't really have a lot of control over. And also let's take, the compassion completely out of it. Let's just boil it down to dollars and cents. Our prison industrial complex is a massive waste of money. The taxpayers spend so much money keeping people locked up for absolutely no reason. And how many people are in prison because we don't have a strong enough social worker system to deal with people who have mental health issues or who just need somebody to listen to them, need somebody to care. We used to have a lot more mental health clinics. Those got dried up. The funding for that got taken away. And, this also boils into, like the cartel system. Republicans are always talking about the cartels and the drugs in this country, but it's our drug laws that fund the cartels and our drug laws that keep people in the prison pipeline. So the way we go about dealing with criminals, quote unquote, is just exacerbating the issue through and through. This young man should still be alive. And if they paid a little bit more attention to who he was in a cell with, he still would be. But again, I think the saddest part about this is that he had plans of coming out and showing people a better way. And now, because he's gone, we'll have more people in the prison system because of the lives that he's no longer to positively impact.
Can't argue with any of that. And you're right. There's so many people who we shouldn't be paying to keep these people locked up in cages, literally in cages in some of these places. And then there's others out there who've committed heinous acts and they've never even seen inside of a prison, but they think they know best about how to put you there because they have access and money. And well, this is Indisputable. Jackson White is our special guest co-host today. I'm Sharon Reed in for Dr. Richie. We appreciate you, Doc. We'll get to more show and, of course, your comments when we come right back.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong, because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was mad.
Cenk Uygur, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
Cenk the Turk Uygur.
What kind of TV station is this? The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It was right out of like Wayne's World.
This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power. We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view. Television, we're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
And fill and host beat CNN and headline news combined. At some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a tall glass of shut up juice.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can, quote, support him.
He says to me, "You won't believe the meeting that I just had."
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
They want him off the air.
Cenk took an incredible risk.
We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what he did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I should be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing a national show. I guarantee it.
magic. It's showtime. And say 45 minutes. I'm hosting today. Now I know what you're thinking, Jerry, your face is already perfect, but you know what? I still need to apply some makeup. I went through this process, right? A few years ago, when I realized that I was gonna have to wear makeup on the show. I had to go through like finding out what my undertones were. You guys know what those are? I got my MAC Cosmetics. It says SPF 15 foundation, broad spectrum. But apparently what I have is red undertones, and I think pores are not supposed to be seen. I need all these things to be confirmed for me. These sponge things don't work for me. You gotta use your hands. This I do. That's how the magic really happens. So we're gonna go through a tutorial how to make the magic happen from beautiful to beautifuler. Let's go. I've already been moisturized. That's the first thing. But moisturization already happened. We go raw. All hands. Pick up. Couple streaks. This is the guy way of putting on makeup. Look at that, dots. There's some shiny points that generally happen. First of all, here we go. You dust here. I'm putting way too much, but you dust. Oh, get the excess off. You don't want chunky powder. There's like a T-zone, I think, right? Mine is a double T-zone. Because I went middle and another cross. Make sure your nose isn't all shiny. People get on you for it. They'll say, that's not a good point you made on there, JR. Your nose is shiny. You guys are picky like that sometimes. I think that's about it, fellas and ladies. See you guys next time. Bitsies.
Welcome to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. Doc is trusting, well, me, I'm Sharon Reed, and Jackson White today to just kind of fill in, see what's going on out there. We've got some great stories for you, more to come, but I do want to get to our beautiful TYT family and your comments. TYT members first, Mr. Steppy69, welcome Sharon and Jackson. It's a pleasure to be with both of you. The pleasure's ours. I can speak for Jackson. We love doing this thing. Over 9,000 enter the Dragon says, thanks Sharon for always keeping it running. Everyone check Jackson's Politics and Paper on YouTube for perspectives other people don't cover. That's right.
Appreciate it.
It's more necessary than ever. You can't, we'll let you get a nap after the show, but you cannot quit, probably ever. The rate we're going here, we definitely need that perspective, Jackson.
Definitely not no time soon. That's for sure.
No time soon.
Yeah.
A lot of our family has a lot to say about the N-word being blurted out at BAFTAs. And some of you don't believe that the man has Tourette. Look, we're not, he says he does. And there seems to have verifiable, well, it's verified, I think. Okay. So I don't know why we're going there, but I honor your comments and you're allowed to believe what you want to believe because it's that unreal. Maybe we need to know more about Tourette syndrome. But Remote Dragon says, well, it's an emoji. You can say free, you can't say free Palestine. You just can't, guys. The N-word, it's cool though.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I don't blame you for thinking this way. I'm not chastising anyone for what they saw, heard, believed. Gal for 71, I don't think that people have a problem with man shouting that. What they had the problem with is the BBC not bleeping it when they bleeped other stuff. That's what Jackson said. Dragon that never trusts the corrupt. So show me all the time his tics caused him to shout the N-word when white or non-white actors were on stage. I'll wait. Well, you're going to be waiting. The dragon that never trusts the corrupt. You're probably going to be waiting. And Dr. Stacy Patton in the story told us that you got to go deeper because what triggers that inside? Why isn't he just speaking Chinese? Mandarin. Certain things trigger certain things. He says it happens when Black people apparently walk on stage and he blurts things out. So we need to know more. All right, let's I don't even know if I'm making sense, but we're going to move on to something else that makes no sense, but we keep them in the show every single day to remind you what's out there. It's a jungle out there, folks. So suit up, get your armor on. Anytime you leave the house, you could encounter one of these beasts in the wild. They actually, I think, enjoy being the menaces of society that they are. They enjoy getting in your business, shutting down lemonade stands, calling the police and the manager. I've seen some do both. First, they call the manager, then the police. Whoever doesn't tell them what they want to hear, they just keep calling to get you in trouble. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Who's having her kid stand in front of our car.
Because you want to cut everybody,
So
sweetheart.
you're putting your kid in danger.
You're going to kill him? You're going to
No. You told him to get out of your car.
You have to be.
You're weird. You're a weirdo.
You have to be more respectful.
Oh, that's respectful to your son.
That's crazy.
All of us are doing a line here.
Sweetie, we weren't even trying to cut you.
I don't know if you heard everything or could read all the captions, but I'll tell you why the person who I think was recording called this person a weirdo. Because look, we've all been in a situation where we're circling, looking for a spot. It's frustrating. It can be. It doesn't really bother me. I'll just keep circling, or sometimes I'll just go home. So whatever I was going to the store for is not important. But there are times where people get into altercations because there's not an available spot. Now, if it's me, I wouldn't tell my then 3-year-old child to go get out and stand in the spot and hold it for mommy while I circle around, because you never know what's out there. That is what's this Karen allegedly did. Karen using her own son as a human traffic cone? That's the question. And based on what we're seeing here, it seems like that's affirmative. Yes. Okay. Uses her family as a human traffic cone during a parking dispute. So here's what the user wrote in the caption in case you missed it. All we did was pull out of our parking spot. We did not even inch forward one time to cut her or anyone else off. Mothers who embarrass their kids like this, at least get out yourself. Don't make your kids do this BS, putting them in danger or weird situations. I mean, it is weird. It's weird, Jackson. And I think that people get so caught up in the emotions of a situation or frustration in the moment that they don't stop and say, that's weird. That's going too far. I'm not going to take my 3-year-old and say, hold the spot for mommy with a vehicle that weighs a ton that could at any moment not see you, run you over just to save the spot. I mean, what's the point where things went too far in your view?
Well, this reminded me of if you've seen The Sopranos, how Carmela used to bring her son when she went over to Furio's house. She used to make him come with her as an excuse, like I'm not trying to sleep with Furio, so I want to bring you here for plausible deniability. She'd bring her son along with her just in case she got to throw him out the window, because you never know when you're going to need a human traffic cone. But now the funniest part of this to me was when the grandma was getting back in the car and she was like, "You're embarrassing." she told that to her daughter, like, "I've been dealing with this crazy girl for years. I spoiled you too much. I should have given you more whoopings." She should have given her daughter more spankings. That's all it was. But yeah, no, you gotta be careful and you gotta be ready when you're driving, because road rage is a real thing. But yeah, I think this young man probably has lots more embarrassment in his future.
Yes.
Hopefully he can get into some counseling. But with the way that health insurance prices are going up, I don't know, it may be a little difficult.
It could be. I hope he has a good friend group, but mom is going to embarrass him more. That we can state that unequivocally. It's fact, Jackson's right. Because based on this is the tip of the iceberg. And grandmama knows it too, as he pointed out.
She
So
knows.
this is going to keep happening. We feel for you, son. I don't know if we're in a position to say you need counseling, but I think it's a good bet. What Jackson said is true. Sometime in the future, you will want and need to talk to someone
Well, yeah,
of
because
value.
one of the biggest reasons that people end up going to counseling is because of their parents. You know what I mean? Like my mom, my dad, my dad. So that's one of the number one things, and it shapes us. It shapes our trauma.
You know what? You're right. And I think, my sister and I was always get on my mom. It was a great mom. I miss you, mommy. But she used to just clap back and be like, can you name one thing I did right? Can I just get one thing I did right? Because I'm getting sick of this. I mean, you couldn't say anything. She was so sensitive. But it has shaped the way I parent my own child. And I tell her sorry all the time. Probably too much. I probably go the other way. But this is a problem, ma'am. You didn't do right. Now she needs to apologize to her child and do better if it's in you, which I doubt. I do doubt. Okay. Listen, you pay your taxes, service in America. Services are supposed to be there when you need them, when you've earned them. By the rules. Just you play by the rules. In this case, it's curious. The feds cut a Black woman's SSI after wrongly questioning citizenship. 60 years old, Black woman with severe medical conditions cut off from her Social Security benefits after the government questioned her citizenship. There she is. And here's the craziest part. Do you know she's never even left the country? This is Dallas native Ramona Rakestraw. Never used her passport, not a single time. Not even sure she has one. Yet they said, you don't belong here. You're not from here. So Ramona Rakestraw said she's relied on supplemental security income, SSI, as her sole source of income while battling kidney disease and cancer. She tells Fox 4 her payments stopped in October after she was told her immigration status was under review. Fox 4 with the detail. She's depended on SSI for years. Kidney disease first sent Rakestraw to dialysis at age 28. Again, that's, over 30 years ago. She later received a transplant, but about 30 years later, she returned to dialysis and received a cancer diagnosis in 2024. Throughout her illness, she said she received SSI benefits and was enrolled in Medicare Part B. Both her SSI payments and Medicare Part B coverage were halted for a period last year, she said. Her Medicare coverage was later restored. Her SSI payments were not. When asked her response whenever the immigration matter was brought to her attention, Rakestraw told Fox 4, they told me my immigrant status was being questioned. And so I said, I'm not an immigrant. Rakestraw said she took her identification, her birth certificate, to her local Social Security office in an effort to resolve the issue. She then received a letter from the Social Security Administration stating, quote, we cannot pay your benefits because you are not lawfully present in the U.S. Say what now? After Rakestraw spoke to Fox 4, the outlet reached out to the SSI administration. Due to privacy concerns, no information was given about her specific grievance, though employees said they would reach out to her regarding the matter. Subsequently, it was reported that Rakestraw's benefits would resume, though there is no word on why they were denied in the first place. You'd have to tell me why. What had happened here? Rakestraw said she was born in 1966 at Parkland Hospital in Dallas. Again, she's never lived outside of Dallas County, nor has she traveled outside the United States. Nothing to see here. We cut your benefits. Dialysis patient, I know something about that. My mother was on dialysis for years. It's very difficult. And then a cancer diagnosis on top of that. And then the letter and the shoulder shrug. Explain what happened here. She can't be the only one. And the other thing that gets me, Jackson, is in a situation like this, going through the medical hardships that she's gone through for more than 30 years, This is a situation ripe for somebody to just give up. With all this uphill and bureaucracy, and nobody's listening. She had to go to the news to get somebody to listen, hire a lawyer to get somebody to listen. Attorney Crump, he's another busy one. He can't retire either. What say you?
Yeah, I think it was a good point when you mentioned how many other people are going through this, because there's definitely more people who are going through this. And, had she not been successful in getting some airtime and some outside attention for it, then nobody would be talking about it. And unfortunately, when this type of stuff happens, is you also pointed out, oftentimes, whatever organization it is, whether it's the federal government or a health insurance company, they're kind of like, oh, well, we'll see what we can do, whatever. I mean, this is in terms of health insurance, me included, like my health, and they just canceled my health insurance just because of a computer error. And I don't have health insurance right now because of their mistake. And they like, oh, well, we'll see what we can do. Maybe you can get it, maybe you can't. Like, what if I had a chronic illness? That would be a massive deal. So this is very important. Again, she needs this. I don't really need it, unless I get into a huge accident, I'll be all right. But this is obviously unacceptable, but also just shows the gaps in competence for how to deal with this type of stuff. Hopefully she can get this situated quickly. But as we know, these types of things often get handled very slowly, if they get handled at all, whether it be because of too much bureaucracy or because of the lack of courage to admit fault and deal with it. So, I hope that she's able to get the justice and that she needs, and that she can get her Social Security back.
Yeah, you're so right. This is a desperate situation, and you're so right. Why not just people aren't perfect. Mistakes happen. Bureaucracy. This is a massive institution. Medicare. Why not just say, "Whoa, we got to fix this immediately. Let's get you an appointment. Let's sit with you. Do it virtually, so you don't have to come down here and put your health at risk." But no, it's always
It's not
far
our
too
fault, it's your
often.
fault.
Yeah,
Type of thing.
simpletons. Okay, this is Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie. I'm Sharon Reed. Jackson White is our special guest co-host today. We'll learn more about his politics of paper, all the things he's up to that have him need. He told me before the show he needed a nap today. We can't tell. The commentary is, as usual, spot on, but we'll see what Jackson's up to and get more of your comments when we come right back.
Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. They'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
Welcome back to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie on the powerful TYT network. Want to remind you, State of the Union President Tuesday night will give his take, and we'll have our team fact checking and just breaking it all down for you. John, Jank, Anna, they'll all be there. They'll watch, react to Donald Trump's State of the Union address Tuesday night. Coverage starts at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Watch on tyt.com/live, YouTube, Twitch, also on Samsung TV, plus Roku, wherever you watch TYT. The whole gang will be there. Break it all down for you. Never more important than now to get you that honest take that cuts through the BS. Streaming is everything. Independent media, more than that. All right, let's get to more of your comments here. Diana Nicole 143 has this to say about the Karen who placed her 3-year-old in a parking spot to save it. This is not the brightest move here. They do that at my university and Disneyland, especially during the holidays. I bet they do. Leave 18, WHT, GRL. A 3-year-old would be easy to miss, I think you meant, and could have gotten run over. Yeah, for sure. I mean, come on. Sadly, we know this has happened before. That lady better get it together or she'll get her kids taken away, says Republicrat 327. You would think. I mean, her own mama, the grandmother, said, why am I here in the middle of this? I don't want any part of this. Okay. Okay, let's move on to this next one for you. Early voters in Texas. This is a big story and it's just going to get bigger. This is the way I see it. And I think there's plenty of anecdotal evidence now to back it up. Early voters in Texas primary encounter abnormalities. And multiple people have taken to TikTok to share their experiences. Watch.
Okay, I just finished voting for the Texas early voting, and the craziest thing happened. I gave them my driver's license, and they asked me to confirm my address because it didn't match my driver's license. They had me living at a house on a street on Bob White Run in San Antonio, 78236. I looked it up on Google Maps and saw there's only about 12 or 13 houses on that road. I don't know how that happened or how my address ended up being that address that was pulling up through the Texas voter registration.
Well, Texas, they are already starting in on the went to vote today. Magically, my voter registration not valid. Why? I registered months ago when I renewed my license, which you guys required under voting laws. So I told the guy at the polling place, absolutely not. I know for certain I registered to vote when I renewed my license. So he calls the elections office. Oh yeah, well, that stuff is taking a long time to go through. Mind you, this was beginning October when I did this. And so, yeah, she's like not technically registered, but she can come to the elections office and vote in a limited ballot.
I want to tell you the story of the entire journey that I've had with trying to get re-registered to vote in this state of Texas that I was born and raised in and now own property in. My partner and I moved here in March of last year, the very first day of March. We moved here from Columbus, Ohio. I registered to get my driver's license at the very first appointment that they had available for me the week before we moved here, which was the last week of February. I went online and made an appointment. The very first appointment that I could get was October 7th of 2025. Absurd, first of all, because that's nearly, at the end of the year. And it just happened to be one day after the required 30-day deadline to be registered before you can vote in the state of Texas. I just got off the phone with the Tarrant County Board of Elections. Big surprise, they did not call me back, so I did have to call them today as I promised I would, and I'm just providing an update. After a long hold, she spoke to her supervisor and found out that they were able to identify that I am one of many people who are in a registered registration status of pending, and that the state is responsible for moving that from pending to actually confirmed registered. So they said that gives me the green light to go ahead and go to any of the Tarrant County polling stations and cast a provisional ballot, which I plan to do now.
Guess who voted? But let me tell you something, I was not the only one in there with issues. While I was sitting there waiting for them to check on my information, which by the way was all in there, I ended up voting normally, no provisional, no limited, none of that. It took about an hour for them to get everything straight. And while I sat there, I saw 5 other people go in there and be told the same thing that I was told from the first polling place that I went to. I don't know how it worked out for any of them because they were behind me. I ended up voting and leaving before they got to them. But let me tell you, they are actively trying to suppress people from voting. They are hoping that once they initially tell you, oh, something's wrong, you're not voting, that you'll just go home and you won't follow up. No, bitch, follow up.
I don't mind that last part. She's saying it's dire. These are our fellow Americans who just want to do their civic duty. One man, one woman, one vote. One person, one vote. 2 of these voters cited issues when they had to register to vote back in October of last year, as you heard. So let's get into what happened in October 2025. What was so special going on back then? Hundreds, possibly thousands of Texans are still waiting for their voter registration to be finalized due to technology issues at both state and county levels. According to county officials, the root of the issue stems from a recent software update to the Texas Secretary of State's voter registration system. They say the switch disrupted how the county systems communicate with the state system as it relates to new voter record. Who you going to blame this time? Better not name those companies. You better not. Who got after Fox and got all that money. Fix it. Software update. And Harris County officials said the biggest hurdle has been the verification step, where the state confirms the registration before sending it back to the county. That process has been significantly delayed. It's a big system, and you're going to have glitches, Harris County tax assessor, collector, and voter registrar Annette Ramirez said. Ramirez said the issue has created, quote, a backlog. Despite these challenges, early voting has increased turnout. Here we go. During the first week of early voting, more than 1 million in Texas cast early ballots for the March 3rd primary. These pivotal elections will determine which Republicans and Democrats appear on the November ballot. That number, based on data from the Texas Secretary of State, may seem small given that Texas has roughly 18.7 million registered voters, but participation in this primary is outpacing what the state saw at this point during the last midterm cycle. It's an early sign voters are engaged this year. Let's give you data from the Texas Secretary of State's office. It shows Democrats are currently slightly ahead of Republicans at the ballot box. Both parties are outpacing the number of early votes made at the same point in 2022. As for that battle for the Democratic Senate nomination, Jasmine Crockett has dropped 2 new ads. She's also pushed out internal polling showing a hypothetical head-to-head with Ken Paxton. She was leading. Meanwhile, James Tallarico was in San Marcos on Monday afternoon. He is continuing to push back on accusations that his campaign has taken donations from dark money donors. We'll see what the voters decide and who they'll send to the November ballot. But I have to ask the question, Jackson. I think I know what you'll say, but look, there's 18.7 million Texans. Not all are registered to vote, but it's a big system. It's hard to manage, software updates, computer glitches. Do you believe that this could just be, accidental?
Probably not. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's very easy to believe and safe to assume that any type of malfunctions or obstacles that people face in early voting or voting at all, whether it be getting their ballot, whatever it may be, I think it's very easy and safe to assume that there's some type of tampering going on, especially when one of the biggest parts of the Republican brand is that people should not be able to vote so easily. We need voter IDs. Everybody, immigrants are voting, which obviously is not happening because undocumented immigrants don't have social security numbers, so they don't exist on paper. And as we've seen time after time, when illegal voting does happen, it's usually a Republican who does it, including Elon Musk. These people who push that are the ones who are most guilty of it. But at the end of the day, I think that that's not really going to save them from what's coming in the midterms. The issue is that the Democratic establishment, sure, you can win in the midterms, but you can also lose in the next set of elections. So there has to be a real stand and antithesis and campaign promises and policies for the Republicans, because what we see over and over again is instead of pushing forward to expand things, expand Medicare, make education more affordable, really get down to what people need, raising the minimum wage. It's like, oh well, let's try to get more Republicans to vote for us, which never happens. Even now, you see people like Hakeem Jeffries, who refuses to say abolish ICE. You can use that language. He's going to use the language he needs because maybe we can get some conservatives to vote for us. But obviously, again, that doesn't happen. And then Donald Trump, who's, what has he suggested so far? He suggested that maybe we shouldn't even have the elections because we're doing such a good job. The economy's never been better. All of that BS. And then he's talked about nationalizing the election process, which of course is not conservative at all. That would be expanding the federal government. And then Caroline Leavitt, who said that we can't count out that we might have ICE agents at the polls, which would just be to discourage Black and brown people from voting and to harass them. So, yeah, I think that there's absolutely tampering going on. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention Donald Trump raiding the Fulton County election offices. He's going to do anything he can to make it more difficult for people to vote. So I think that all of us, if we plan on voting, we should prepare for trouble. We should prepare for obstacles and be ready to fight.
And vote early.
Yes.
Don't wait till election day. That's the advice they give us here in Fulton County, where that raid took place. Statute of limitations was up. I don't know. What are we doing 6 years later? Oh, that's right. Crookery. Corruption. That's what you're doing. That's not what's going on here in Fulton County. You lost. Joe Biden, last seen tripping all over TikTok, falling off his bike, beat you. He beat you. And you didn't like that. And so you're still going with the lie. All right. This is a difficult one. A woman really just supporting teenagers who are finding their voices, using their voices. Woman charged after joining anti-ICE teen group chat. Here are more details for you.
A woman was arrested for joining an anti-ICE group chat because she told high schoolers she was proud of them for using their voices. She's now being charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. High school students in Summerville, South Carolina were organizing a peaceful walkout to protest ICE. According to a report from Newsweek, Dina Cholet, a local restaurant owner, joined the chat to express solidarity with them. In addition to telling the high schoolers she was proud of them for using their voices, she shared a Facebook post that had outlined threats made towards the protesters so that they could be aware and safe. She also mentioned that a group of us, likely referring to adults, would be there to support them. Members of the group chat reportedly thanked her, and then she left the chat. That's it. Unfortunately, a police officer had anonymously joined the group chat as well. Now police have arrested her because she bears influence over the students to engage in disruptive or violent behavior. According to the police, some calls to potentially violent actions were made in the group chat, but there is no evidence to suggest that Cholet encouraged this behavior. The organizers also repeatedly reminded the group that this was to be a peaceful walkout. The police also used the chat to identify several of the student organizers. Meanwhile, a man who allegedly made threats against the teenagers if they protested was not charged.
You following all that? You keeping up? It adds up to a lot of tomfoolery to keep people from exercising their right to free speech. Dina Marie Cholet, South Carolina restaurant owner, was arrested last week for joining a group chat with high school students who were organizing a peaceful anti-ICE walkout. So what's her crime, you might be asking? She told them she was proud of them for using their voices. She's now charged, though, with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Meanwhile, men who threatened to throw urine-filled balloons at the teen protesters, not charged. They might need more evidence there. They got to take care of violent people first. I guess she was more pressing. I'm going to be there to support the kids' peaceful protest. So here's what happened. Students at Somerville High School in Somerville, South Carolina, created an Instagram group chat called Somerville Walkout. This was in early February 2026. They were organizing a peaceful anti-ICE protest walkout scheduled for Thursday, February 20th. The group had about 80 members, most between the ages of 14 and 18. It was open, public Instagram account. Anyone could follow, anyone could join. On February 10th, Cholet entered the group chat using her business's Instagram account and identified herself as Dina Yo. Okay, just shows up. Hey guys, what's going on here? Cholet told the students she was proud of them for using their voices. She said a group of us, referring to adults, would be out there to support them during the walkout. She also shared a Facebook post that outlined threats that had been made against the student protesters so they could be aware and stay safe. Members of the group thanked her for her support. Then she left the chat. That's all. Nothing to see here. A student alerted a school resource officer at Somerville High School on February 9th about a planned protest set for February 20th, according to a police report obtained by Newsweek. The officer monitored the group chat through early February 10th, identified an organizer who wanted to get as many students involved as possible for the anti-ICE protest, police said. Then on Tuesday, February 18th, 8 days after she joined the chat, 2 days before the walkout was even scheduled, Cholet was arrested. She was charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. She was released later that day. She posted just a $1,000 bond. Initial court appearance is scheduled for April 14th. Now, here's what Cholet and her attorney have said. On Facebook on February 13th, before her arrest, Cholet wrote, "When I joined, I told them I was proud of them for using their voices. I let them know we had their backs. I directed them to a post that outlined the threats that had been made toward them so they would be aware and stay safe. After that, I left the chat." That's it. Her attorney, Gustav Marchnik, told Newsweek, "The facts do not match the allegation. My client did not encourage anyone to break the law, commit violence, or disrupt school operations. Ms. Cholet broke no laws." Now, here's the part that should make everyone's blood boil, folks. This is where you got to sit up and stand at attention, because if you let this go, then what's next? Well, we've already seen it, I guess. The underage youths, 2 of them, were charged with student threats. One was charged with unlawful communication. Federal Bureau of Investigation and a member of the U.S. Secret Service were later notified about the threats to Trump, but are not investigating the incident. The men who allegedly made threats against the youths, throw urine-packed balloons if they protested, not charged. Cholet is the only adult arrested in connection with this incident. So to be clear about what happened here, police used a burner account to infiltrate a student group chat. Where is this in South Carolina? There's not anything else they need to be doing here except going undercover with a bunch of teens. I have a teen. I don't even have to listen at her door. She's so loud. I mean, it was an open group. They said what they were going to do. What's the problem here? And why are you so busily after them? So they went undercover, the burner account, infiltrated student group chat. They identified the student organizers. The walkout was canceled by February 11th before it ever happened. And they still arrested this woman, one adult, the restaurant owner, Miss Cholet, who told the kids, "I'm proud of you." Is this America? I guess we have to claim it at this point. This has been going on, this nonsense, long enough, Jackson. I'll answer it. This is America. And if you want changes, folks, it's got to start immediately. They got to dial this nonsense back. What did you hear?
Well, I mean, if you didn't know, for people who are tuned in, the Department of Homeland Security has been requesting the personal identifications of anybody who speaks out against ICE. They've been asking for this information from social media companies, from platforms like Google, whether it be your email address, phone number, street address, whatever it is that they can get from you. Because, they're authoritarian. It's fascism. We know this. But if you didn't know that, Now you do. So you're probably on their radar. I don't know if they're going to come running up and getting you because they can't get all of us, but they are watching us. And so this isn't surprising, but this is why they're asking for our information. And in response, we should turn it up even more because at the end of the day, not only can they not stop all of us, but Donald Trump's second term is going to come to an end. And when it does, there's going to be people who are ripe and ready to go to prison. The Supreme Court may have made it such that Donald Trump can't go to prison for any of his presidential actions, but that does not extend to the other people in his administration. So, unfortunately, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this over the coming years, especially as the executive branch continues to get cornered and pinned into a wall.
This is dangerous.
Yeah.
This is so dangerous. If you think this is just some incident that happened in South Carolina and doesn't affect your life, you better think again. This is how it starts. I would think there'd be even more pushback. And I'm proud of my fellow Americans who have pushed back, but I think there'd be even more. Because remember, we had certain rights and then you took them back. It's easier when you don't have rights. It takes longer to say, no, here we have rights that are just being eroded. All right. Look, I'm just going to give it to you straight. When you've done certain things in the past, people look at you funny in the future and say, this could be you too. A man who suspiciously sounds like Donald Trump calls into C-SPAN. Here it is.
John in Virginia, Republican. Let's hear from you.
Well, this is John Barron, and this is the worst decision you ever have in your life, practically. Jack's going to agree with me, right? But this is a terrible decision. And you have Hakeem Jeffries, he's a dope, and you have Chuck Schumer, who can't cook a cheeseburger. Of course these people are happy. But true Americans will not be happy. And you have the woman earlier, I assume she's a woman, she's a Democrat, but she said she's disgraced. She's devastated.
All right, John. We'll go to Chester, who's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
You're just going to cut John Barron off? He wasn't done. So let's get into it. After the Supreme Court's ruling, Donald Trump's opinion was similar to Mr. John Barron on C-SPAN there. During a news conference Friday afternoon, Trump called the court a, quote, disgrace, said the ruling was an embarrassment to their families. The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed for not having the courage to do what's right for our country, Trump said. According to the president's public schedule, Trump's meeting with the governor started at 9:30 a.m. at the White House. Two of the governors met with Trump. They began their post-meeting news conference at 11:53 a.m. Grand Hyatt in Washington, D.C. Trump held a private meeting beginning at 10:30 a.m., which was closed to the press. And Mr. John Barron called into C-SPAN at 10:51 a.m. A post with the timeline. According to a 2016 Washington Post article, Barron was Trump's go-to alias when he was under scrutiny, in need of a tough front man or otherwise wanting to convey a message without attaching his own name to it. Barron was quoted several times throughout the 1980s, but in 1990, Trump testified in a lawsuit. I believe on occasion I used that name. So it's up to C-SPAN to clear all this up, and they have, I think. Let's just read it. Because so many of you are talking about Friday's C-SPAN caller who identified himself as John Barron, we want to put this to rest. It was not the president. The call came from a Central Virginia phone number and came while the president was in a widely covered in-person White House meeting with the governors. Tune in to C-SPAN for the actual president State of the Union address Tuesday night. Another reminder that TYT, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, will be covering everything. John, Jank, Anna, they'll break it all down for you. And maybe John Barron will call in, Jackson. I don't know. Here's the thing, though. I'm going to believe this was not Donald Trump. It sounded like him. Good, nice little joke. Hee. But when you've done this kind of foolishness in the past, of course people are going to think there's a chance it's you. I can tell you this. If someone called in using an alias but sounded like Barack Obama, even if it was a dead ringer, I don't think many people would believe it was Barack Obama calling in because they say, wait, that's a good one, but that's just not what he wouldn't do that. They find it hard to believe that Barack Obama would do that. But with Donald Trump, to me, it doesn't matter that it wasn't him. It matters that enough people thought it could be him because this is what he would do. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think that the fact that we are even considering this says so much about who he is. Because it's not as if he spends his time doing better things. He's the most powerful man on earth. And by and large, he spends his time watching to see who's talking about him and responding to it. Posting on Truth Social, playing golf, and taking hundreds of millions of dollars from foreign governments in the most brazen, corrupt, in your face deals that anyone's ever seen. I mean, the man has hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in slush funds accounts in other countries that gave him massive, large, luxurious gifts. It doesn't get any worse than that. But again, the fact that we're even talking about this says so much about who he is.
Yeah. This is your president. I'm old enough to remember learning, and much of what I learned in history class, I grew up to learn was fiction. But I'm old enough to know that when we learned about presidents, none of this stuff, pretending to be John Barron on C-SPAN, was mentioned in any book. Okay. I don't know how they'll sanitize it once he's out of office. Trump, if he leaves. But this is funny, but also a pitiful commentary on what we've come to expect from our president in America today. I'll give you the last word.
Well, I don't really have anything else to add to this other than, I think I'll pass on tuning into the State of the Union this evening. Honestly, when we started off, I'm pretty tired. My trainer killed me yesterday, and I think I'll play some Assassin's Creed Shadows instead. That's the game where you're based in feudal Japan. But yeah, I don't really want to hear what child trafficking, pedophile, criminal, idiot loser has to say. All he's gonna do is lie, and I guess I'll catch the recap. But yeah, I have better things to do this evening.
Well, with that, I'll tell you again that John, Anna, Jank will have the full recap of the State of the Union. If you want to get the truth, get it from them, I suggest. And as always, the family's welcome to join your commentary, your opinions, weigh in, tyt.com. We appreciate you all. Jackson, thank you. Tell people where they can find your great work.
Yeah, I can check me out at Politics and Paper on YouTube. I got a couple documentaries. I already put one out, but I got two new ones coming out. The next one is about the way the structure of society shapes interpersonal relationships. I'll be talking about 1950s nuclear family propaganda. I'll be talking about first and second wave feminism. I'll be talking about the civil rights movement. I'll be talking about the expanse of the digital age. It's going to be really interesting.
Well, damn, you've earned the right to play your game. Play your game tonight.
Oh, yeah.
You've been very busy.
Yeah.
This is indisputable. Thank you, Dr. Ritchie, for allowing us to kind of fill some of the airtime here for you. We appreciate you always. And thank you for joining us. We love our TYT family. We hope you'll join us again.